Welcome to the February 22nd, 2021 Community Garden Network meeting. Today we're going to have a brief presentation about the basics of starting seeds indoors, followed by a discussion about the information that was presented. Thanks to Linda Haché from the Coniston Community Garden and Charmaine Mallette from the Chelmsford Community Garden for leading the discussion. To subscribe to our emails about meetings and events and activities, visit our website at sudburycommunitygardens.ca. So let's get started. If you're purchasing seeds from a seed supplier, the first thing you should do is read the back of the package to find which techniques should be used to plant the seeds. Most annual and vegetable seeds do not require special treatment to achieve good germination. However, some seeds take a lot longer to germinate than others. So to get a more exact sowing date, first find your last frost-free date, which is the approximate date of your area's last spring frost. Then back up the number of weeks required to grow the transplants to get the sowing date. In Sudbury, which is in growing zone 4B, that date is between March 17th and March 21st, depending on the source of the information. Gently press the seed into the soil at the recommended depth. Smaller seeds can be soaked in water 24 hours before sowing to soften the seed coat to allow for germination. Larger seeds with a hard seed coat may need their coating gently abraded without harming the interior parts, which is called scarification. Many flowers and some vegetables like squash, spinach, and legumes, including pea and bean seeds, benefit from scarification. So you can try that if you find that you have poor seed germination for those seeds. There are other scarification methods that you can use that include rubbing or rolling some seeds with coarse sand or grit between your hands for about 20 seconds. You can gently use a nail file instead, or sandpaper, or even make a nick with your fingernail anywhere on the outer seed coat, preferably opposite the hypocotyl or eye, which is where the new shoot will emerge from. You can also pour boiled water into a bowl, let it cool for about 30 seconds, then tip in your seeds. Leave them in the water to cool or until they have swelled up to about twice their size before planting immediately. Use any container to start seeds as long as it is at least 3 inches deep to allow for roots to grow. You can be creative. Reuse yogurt cups, plastic takeout containers, margarine tubs, or cell packs and trays from where you buy your seedlings. All containers should have holes in the bottom for drainage. Make sure your containers are very clean to avoid disease. You can disinfect them with a mild bleach solution. You can make pots out of newspapers or use peat pellets or pots that you can plant directly into the ground with your seedling. When soaked in water, peat pellets grow to 7 times their size. It's best not to use the soil from your garden. Not only is it too heavy and provides poor drainage, you run the risk of bringing in weeds and disease organisms. There was a time when gardeners sterilized their garden soil in the oven to use for their seedlings, but that is a very tedious and smelly chore. It's best to use a commercially prepared soilless mix, which can be found at garden centers, home improvement stores, or online. These mixes usually contain peat moss, which is naturally sterile, vermiculite, and perlite. These are light in texture and retain large amounts of moisture while still being well drained. Most importantly, soilless mix is a clean and sterile environment that will help keep your small seedlings healthy. The rule of thumb is to start seeds warm, but grow seedlings cool. Don't try to germinate your seeds on the windowsill. The outdoor temperatures seep in and make it too cool for them. Most seeds are genetically programmed to germinate only in warm soil. The seed package may have more information on optimum soil temperature. Keep seed trays consistently warm, for example by placing them on top of a water heater. Fluorescent lighting or heat lamps also can keep the soil warm. If your area is quite cool, you can use a seedling heat mat. Seeds need to be constantly moist in order to germinate. Don't let your growing mix dry out or get too wet. Moisten the growing mix thoroughly before sowing. After the seeds are sown, place a humidity dome or plastic wrap over your container to slow evaporation. Remove the cover as soon as you see a sprout so that the air can circulate around the emerging seedlings. Water with a fine spray of warm water or from the bottom. Avoid watering with icy cold water. Seedlings grown in weak light will have weak stems and often a pale color. They need 14 to 16 hours of light from the moment they germinate and at least 8 hours of darkness. Seedlings grown on a windowsill will stretch towards the light, and most windowsills have low levels of light, so turn your containers daily if using a windowsill. Fluorescent lighting or grow lights are your best option. Cool white bulbs provide light in the blue-green range and encourage leaf growth, while a grow light or warm light provides light in the red range, which encourages flowering. Get your plants as close to the light as possible by putting the lights on adjustable chains, keeping them 2 to 4 inches above the tops of seedlings. Move the light fixtures up as the seedlings grow. Incandescent or LED grow lights also work well. Adding artificial light can also help keep seedlings warm. As soon as their first true leaves appear, cut off the weakest and spindliest seedlings at soil level so that the strongest ones can get stronger. If your seedlings are rather dense, do not pull out unwanted seedlings, as their roots may be tangled up and you'll damage the root of the seedling remaining. Once thinned, you can place a fan on your plants to make their stems sturdier and get them ready for outdoors. Good air circulation also keeps molds and mildews at bay. Seedlings in seed flats need to be transplanted into 4-inch containers by the time you have 4 true leaves, or if they outgrow their containers. To transplant, hold the seedling by its leaves and not the delicate stem. With a butter knife, spoon, or fork, gently cut around the seedling root and lift up. Place into a pre-moistened container, slightly deeper than they were in their flats. Firm soil around the seedlings and water immediately. After transplanting, fertilize once a week with transplant fertilizer or a half-strength, well-balanced fertilizer. After about 3 weeks, you can start fertilizing at full strength. Over-fertilization can result in leggy seedlings. If your seedlings are starting to look leggy, pinch back the growing tips to promote more branching. This can be repeated every week or so to promote compact, bushy plants. Hardening off gets your small plants ready to be planted outdoors. At least a week before you plan to set the plants into the ground, they need to gradually get used to the sun, wind, and various outdoor temperatures. A cold frame, which is a sheltered, unheated box with a translucent cover, can be used. The lid can be gradually raised to expose the plants to more sunlight. You can also use row covers or place your plants in a shaded, sheltered part of your garden for a few hours each day, gradually moving them into more sun. Unprotected plants will have to be brought back indoors each night unless you know it is going to stay above 10 degrees centigrade all night long. If you see insects on your seedlings, spray insecticidal soap on spider mites, aphids, or white flies as soon as they appear. Using clean containers and soilless mixtures should keep diseases away. A common disease is damping off, which is a fungus that attacks the plant at the soil line. 1 minute your seedlings look healthy and then suddenly they topple over. Make sure the seedlings have good air circulation. A fan will help. Also make sure you don't overwater. So hope you've enjoyed these tips and stay with us now for some good discussions around this presentation and more.
I like to experiment with stuff. So that kind of opens a lot of doors. Just like pre-soaking seeds and giving them a little rinse with peroxide, and you can see what's going to germinate, not. So it takes, you use a tweezer once they start germinating, then you put them in pots, and that way you know that they're going to germinate. So it's trial and error, a lot of it.
Mm-hmm. That's a good example right there. Would never ever thought of trying that. That's good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I guess the
So-
takeaway and what we can tell, folks who are watching, who will watch this video afterwards, we'll post the link to the Stoke Seeds link that you provided so that they can kind of go through it. And maybe we can start asking a few questions about that particular, some of the stuff that you were telling us, or how do you want to structure this moving now?
Well, I also have something else too. Yesterday there was a discussion about buying local seeds. The seed companies, I've got 4 different companies here. Stokes, which is one of my better ones. Vessi is out of province, so we can leave that one aside. But this is I don't know if anybody can see that. It's called Richters. They're from Goodwood, Ontario. And there's OSC.
Richters.
And they're from Waterloo. Like, I know these are, but they're all really good companies, reputable companies to deal with. And I think that's a lot of the key is to buying from reputable companies that are not selling you seeds that are a couple of years old, and they're tried and true to what they're supposed to be. So
well, for this area too. Like yesterday,
Yeah.
I went online and looked for the ones from Manitoulin, and she's either sold out or very low. And I would imagine by the end of today, she'll be sold out of a lot.
That's right. That's why keeping our own seeds is really important. Yes, Linda. Muted though.
Okay, got it. Okay, I just wanted to add a couple of things, Charmaine.
Thank you.
You've got your preferential planting methods. I use these,
That's right.
the peat pots, and I use the Pro Mix. I use vermiculite and or, can't remember the name of it, in the green bag. Rochelle, help me out. Perlite, okay? And I usually have a fair sized tub mixed with the soil. And this is what it looks like when it's like wet enough. So you've got dry and wet. And that's how we tell in the schools, that's how we tell the children to know when they need water. When they're this color, they need water. When they're this color, they don't. The other thing is I order those pots in bulk. They're Jiffy pots, but I order them in bulk. Last order was over 5,000. It's not a whole lot cheaper than buying them at the buck store. It is a whole lot cheaper than buying them at any garden supply store. Buck store, Rochelle, correct me if I'm wrong, they're $2 or $2.25 for 26 pots. Rochelle gone? Anyhow.
Yeah, it depends on the
way it
year
comes
and
up
which
to
buck
about
store you
9
go
cents
to.
a pot. I'm getting them for 7 cents a pot, but I always have a lot ahead to farm out to who's ever doing school classes and that sort of thing. And I pull them out because once they're that big, I don't want to kill them. So I pull them out and try to separate them and replant them rather than just cutting them off. That's about it. Around here, we deal with a lot of Mackenzie seeds. In case y'all don't know, I have a gazillion of them. The germination rate doesn't go down a lot in year 1, 2, or 3. Even at the end of the 3rd year, you're losing maybe 10–15% germination rate. But if the seeds are free, balance it out. So the only other thing I wanted to add is Charmaine turned me on to a website, and it's not about seed planting or anything like that. It's about outdoor planting, and it's called what, Charlene? The Garden of Eden? It's
called Creating the Garden of Eden. It has a religious connotation, and that's why I didn't talk about it. But if you look at even what they were talking yesterday, the Indigenous group, it's all about bringing back our
The old
soil.
ways. Yeah.
The old way of doing things. That's another project. It's going to be a 2-year project that's going to go on in the back of our church. We have this churchyard that our church is an old school. So we have a really large yard. And the question's always been, what can we do with it? So I came across this article and I started reading about it. And then I was asked by the International Women's League to be part of a web committee that we're going to be doing about the same thing. We're going to be building these gardens that we're just going to be, it's a no-till gardening. So it's just a matter of bringing the resources to it and using the layering process that we've been using here in our community garden. It's just on a bigger scale. So it's really quite interesting. And it, if you don't mind a few religious connotations, it's a really amazing way of gardening. So it's called Creating Eden's Garden.
It's a YouTube video.
Yes, it is.
Bill, you were showing us something interesting.
Yeah, it's a soil blocker from Richter's.
Oh,
They, with this, you don't need the peat pots or anything. Because you just stick it into the material and it makes a little block. You plant the seed in there.
oh, cool.
Yeah.
That
And
would
what
be
do you
neat.
put it in?
Well, you use the mixture,
Okay,
planting mixture, and you just press it down like that.
okay,
Comes
Oh,
back.
wow.
Yeah, I bought this about 20 years at
nice.
Richter's.
Oh,
Nice.
Richter's.
I had a
Richter's is a
question.
really good, high quality place. I've been going there since I lived in Toronto. 30
Bill,
years.
I have a question for you then. I just put in the chat, it's Leanne speaking, that I'd really like to start making my own potting soil, and I don't know if that's possible. Like, I'd rather
course
not
it's
buy.
Easy,
Yeah,
You
like, could I
just
just
need
not?
you just
use-
need the components.
But-
A good mix.
Well, here's the thing. Could I not use just typical garden soil? Like, just set it
No
aside?
way, no
No.
way, man. It's too heavy.
Oh,
You
okay.
need a lighter medium.
And
Okay.
and if you did use the outside soil, it's recommended to bake it, so that way you kill off any organisms or bad stuff in the soil.
You
But the
shouldn't even
downside-
use it. No,
The
you
downside to
should
that
not
is it
touch it
stinks
at all.
and yeah.
You need
Um,
a light medium, So you
I'd just
need
like to get away from the packaging, if anyone has suggestions on that.
I mean, you can use compost too. Compost is part of the mix with the perlite.
Okay.
There's a couple of.
Worm
Just Google it.
castings were suggesting. They're suggesting worm castings as a really good medium to
Yeah,
build stuff in.
Oh, I've got that in my garage.
Go. Yeah, the idea of using soil, you've got to make sure that it can retain moisture, that it can have air circulation in it so the roots can have a chance to start growing and expanding.
Okay, thank you.
But there are recipes out there for, it tells you the number of cups to the number of the mixture itself. I thought I had it.
Charmaine, is it called Back to Eden Gardening? Because when I search the other words, I don't find it, but I did find a documentary film called Back to Eden Gardening.
I've looked at it so many times and
Just a minute, I'll see if I can pull it up.
Okay, thanks,
Yeah.
Linda. Because I searched the other Creating Your Garden of Eden and I do not find anything like that. Like I don't find a website.
I've got a YouTube channel. Sorry, Back to Eden.
Yes, that's what I
Eden.
just found, Linda.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
back to Eden.
It's
I
it's just an
posted in-
awesome video.
Okay, I posted that in the link then, and that seems to be, or sorry, in the chat, that seems to be the right one, Back to Eden Gardening, and it is a documentary.
I think that about does it, Charmaine?
Yes, one more thing. Last year, our garden got involved in the rain gauge for monitoring rainfall for Chelmsford. I got involved through Jamie Bergeron, which is the community rain gauge coordinator here. So if anybody's interested in putting a rain gauge in their gardens, you could send me your names and I can get you in touch with Jamie, because they're always looking for people. Because what they do is they monitor the amount of rain that we get through our city and how it affects the water levels.
They knew they could do better. They decided to put their entrepreneurial skills and a family friend's patent.
So that, if there's any other questions?
Colleen, did you want to speak to the seeds?
Yeah. Just turn myself on here. Yeah, sure. So there's still quite a bit of interest in doing the community seed swap that would normally happen on CD Sunday. And of course, because we held a virtual event yesterday, we've had quite a bit of response in, well, the last 24 hours about people bringing forward seeds that they have stashed away from whatever last year. So we put together a video on how the seed swap's going to work. And I don't know, Rochelle, if you can actually play that YouTube video.
Yeah, hold on one second.
So it'll be an ongoing kind of activity rather than a one-day event. So here's, well, watch the video and then we'll see if you have questions.
I'm not hearing sound.
Yeah, me
Oh,
neither.
you're not?
No.
No.
Okay, that's interesting because I'm hearing it, but I guess it's not coming through. We'll
Just maybe post the
Share.
link and we'll go
Yeah.
look at it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so the basics are that Rochelle has again offered her business as an a location for the swap, and she would like people to just call ahead so that she's not, I mean, she still has to manage the number of people that go into the pharmacy and Culinaria. So if you can call ahead if you have seeds to drop off, or if you want to go in and just see what's available in terms of picking up, that's possible too. So we will have seeds in the community somehow over the next few weeks, and we will keep you posted as to what's available, and that's it.
Colleen, are we still somehow supporting like the seed library at the main library?
Well, yes, we did actually try to contact them to be a location for seed swapping. And in the current state of flux with open and not open and somewhat open, it really became quite a challenge. And so we said we need, because the season is already upon us, we just need to make it available now. We decided that the priority really will be to get the seeds into the hands of people that really need it. So we want to get them out to the community gardeners, people in housing projects, people that are working with the early on centers. And then when that sort of rush is over, we will take those surplus seeds and eventually bring them to the library so the general public can then get them.
Okay, any other comments on, or people who do different things or who'd like to? Looks like we've lost Charmaine. I don't know what happened there.
Okay, so I just also wanted to add one more thing, because these seed catalogs really do have a lot of resources. And this is William Dam Seeds, and they have a section in each one of their major vegetable categories that just has like a really brief outline of like germinating temperatures and like just the basics. So I think it would be worthwhile, and I would volunteer to like make a PDF out of this, like just so that gardens would have this to refer to, because it's just like a short one-shot thing of what you should be looking for in terms of, you know, temperatures when you actually plant, etc.
So I know Charmaine also talked about the last frost date and about, you know, starting seeds. The last start date that I typically use is May the 17th. And then what you would do is you would look on the back of each packet and kind of count back to see when you should be planting. We lost you, Charmaine. I'm not sure what happened there.
Yeah, it was, whoa.
Any rate, so I do have a document. Charmaine, you said you have as well. So maybe we'll gather all of these resources and have them posted on our website. I do have a document that I put together as well. If you go to the Farmer's Almanac, you can actually plug in your postal code, and it'll actually give you a chart of all of the vegetables and you can sort them either by date or alphabetical by order as to which week you would start them. So starting in March, which is right around the corner, there are a few things that we should be starting already for our gardens. So that would be a pretty valuable resources to have. Charmaine, you said you had something as well?
Yes, I have a chart that's for zone 3. It's just one that I picked up through the website, but it does give you when to start them inside and when to go out. And it's a zone 3. It's from Manitoba, so there, you know, there's lots of similarities in the areas.
Now, are we not in 4B? We're in zone 4B, correct?
I'm in zone.
Yep.
I'm gonna say
Changed.
yes.
It's changed from 3B to 4B.
Yeah.
I looked at the recent plant hardiness map from Agriculture Canada, I guess.
Yeah.
It has changed. However, you have to realize different parts of the city are different. I'm in Gatchel. Gatchel is a lot different from Hanmer, and especially out east. So they're probably in 3B.
Yeah.
You know, the thing is, you need to keep a binder of your last frost and your first, frost in the fall, like
right.
every year, just keep a binder. And when you start seeds and et cetera, everyone should have this.
So I'm currently sharing what I pulled from the Farmer's Almanac, so you can see. So they are saying that the last frost occurs on May 21st. Other sources say around somewhere between May 17th to May 21st. But if you wanted to start bell peppers, for example, that's starting fairly shortly. And you'll see that on the 2 lines here, so this is actually, this line here is the frost date, and this would be based on the moon dates. So I know that Garth, for example, plants his seeds and starts his plants all based on the moon dates versus the frost dates. They're not all that far apart. So we can share this as well.
Jared here.
Sorry? Hi,
Jared.
Jared.
Yeah, Jared recording. Listening to Bill here, and he is, as a person who teaches climatology, I echo what he is saying. Different parts of the city are going to be fundamentally different. You go into the Long Lake area and you can have frosts right until June. So everybody needs to be aware that they are in essentially a different zone. And that said, of course, Rochelle says, well, you need some sort of guidance, and I agree there. And if the magic date is May 17th, at least that gives everybody an idea of when they should start planting. If it's planting for outplanting later, well, then you pick your date once your frost is passed, I would think.
I think so we, in the past, our community garden has been planting a lot with the schools through the school garden project, the seed starting that we did in pre-COVID times. And we always planted at the beginning of June. We waited until June. And the reason for that is we had one year where we had a very late frost that killed everything, and the kids were so disappointed. So it's a bit of a different viewpoint, because if you were doing, if you have a benevolent garden that is community based and it's for the community and for the kids to get involved, you want to make sure that they're successful. So you may want to adjust your dates a little bit. But if you're looking at, true production gardens and your own home garden, then you may want to plant a little bit earlier and risk it. And look around mid-May as being the time where you start thinking about seeding. And there's a lot of things that you can seed outdoors before that. That's why the chart is good, because there are a lot of cold weather crops that you would, plant the seeds directly into the ground a lot earlier than, I, as a new gardener a number of years ago, thought you plant everything, beginning of June or the end of May. And there's a lot more technique to it. So that's why I think it would be good to get a lot of these resources put together and have them available so people can pull from them, because there's a lot out there. Okay. Anybody else?
Nope.
Okay, I'm going to stop recording.